Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Friends, good morning. We are starting with a course which is very important for Department of Mechanical Engineering and many other branches as well as for other courses, that is Production and Operations Management. We are starting with the first lecture, that is Introduction to Production and Operations Management. Friends, every day we are watching activities which are producing products or providing the services. You look at a very simple example of our kitchen in our households. In the kitchen, our mother cooks several dishes. So, that is also a kind of a production process. Similarly, when the food is served at the dining table, it is more like a service system, where the family members are served by the food cooked in the kitchen. So, in that way we can see that our activities in our surrounding are of manufacturing activities as well as service activities. Together these subjects is called production and operations management. When we are doing something production activity, producing some goods, it is called production system or production management. When we are providing some services, then it is called service system. Another good example can be washing cloth. It is a service activity. Similarly, in the manufacturing sector, from the corporate sector, we can see that manufacturing of ceiling fans, passenger cars, biscuits, aircraft, ship, etc., they are examples of manufacturing sector. Similarly, we are finding railways which provide the transportation, airlines, cab services, hotel industry, hospital industry, they are all service sectors. Similarly, we can see restaurants, spa, theatres, schools, university as an example of service system. So, all these activities which are happening in our surrounding, whether in our household, whether in our manufacturing environment, whether in our society, civic activities, they are part of production and operations activities. What are the typical features of these activities? You will find that there is some kind of input, like in kitchen there are ingredients which are used to prepare the food. Similarly, in a manufacturing unit, let us say manufacturing of cars, there are raw material used, components and parts are used to manufacture the car. Another important input is manpower, human resources required to produce the products and services. Third important thing which is required is the machinery, some kind of equipment. Just like in our kitchen, it can be gas stove, in the manufacturing there are several types of machines which are used, and obviously money is also required. So, these are some of the type of inputs which are required to produce or to provide service in a system. Then second important thing in a production operation system is some kind of a conversion process which converts the inputs into outputs. Conversion process are of several natures, like in cooking. Cooking is a conversion process. Carpentry, which converts the logwood into furniture, is a transformation process. Similarly, the output can be desirable output as well as undesirable output. Desirable output can be like furniture is a desirable output, and undesirable output can be some kind of fume, some kind of waste wood, or some other kind of waste materials are produced as a byproduct or as a waste product. And ultimate, so output, after output there is some kind of a outcome which is a higher level of output, which is customer satisfaction. If you have produced something and if it is able to, idea of producing or providing services to satisfy the customer along with growth of the organization. So, in that way we can see that a production operation management system consists of some kind of inputs. Second is conversion process, then together it produces certain output, and that output helps to fulfill certain requirements of the customer to satisfy the customer, that we call it outcome. Let us see few definitions, few concepts of production and operations management to understand it further. Production and operations management is a discipline and profession that studies and practice the process of planning, designing and operating production systems and subsystems to achieve the goals of the organization. So, it is both a discipline as well as profession also. We are having in our factories, in our industry, production manager, operations managers. So, another important concept given by Heiser and Render, production and operations management is a set of activities that creates value in the form of goods and services by transforming inputs into outputs. Similarly, another definition given by Chase, Aquilino and Jacob, production and operations management can be defined as the design, operation and improvement function of the production systems that makes the firm's primary products or services. So, we see that in these definitions important key points which are coming is some kind of inputs, some kind of output and then conversion process. See another definition given by Cressy and Ritzman, the term production and operations management refers to the direction and control. This direction and control reflects the management aspects of production and operations management, direction and control of the processes that transforms inputs into products and services. So, here focus is on the management aspects of the production and operations. You have seen that in these definition two words are coming very frequently, one is system and second is management. Let us understand that also. What is system? Every day we are reading and using the term system, like in schools also we were calling it respiratory system, digestion systems and similarly, and when there is some accident or something we call it a system failure. So, what is system? There are several definitions of system, but to keep the thing simple, a simple definition can be a system consists of large number of entities, like in our production operations management system, the entities are man, material, machines, money, energy, information, these are all entities and a system consists of these entities which interact with each other. These entities are not in isolation, they interact with each other, they speak to each other, they interact with each other in one way or another. And what is the purpose of interaction? To achieve the goals of the system for which it has been created. Like if it is a car manufacturing system, it has several entities and they interact with each other, so that a good quality cars can be produced and sold to the customers. Similarly, let us explain the concept of management. Again, concept of management is also wide, several definitions are there, several parameters are there, but for the sake of convenience, for the sake of understanding this particular subject, we will say that management means, it is also given by Juran, management means planning of the system, control of the system and improvement of the system. So, we will define though there are several other things also, staffing is there, scheduling, sequencing, so many other terms are also used along with the management, or it can be designing the system also, but for the sake of simplicity we will say management means planning of the system, control of the system and improvement of the system. What are the objectives of production system? As I said, objective is to achieve a good outcome, which is customer satisfaction and growth of the organization, and growth of the organization will happen only if there is a customer satisfaction. So, the sole objective of any system, any manufacturing or any commercial system is customer satisfaction. Now, question arises how to achieve, what is meant by customer satisfaction? Customer satisfaction, when we go to purchase, when we are going to purchase some product or service from the market, as a customer what is our requirements, and if those requirements are fulfilled we feel satisfied. So, let us understand that when we want to purchase something, the first dimension which we look at is quality of the product or service. So, first important thing to satisfy the customer is we should be able to produce good quality products. Second is cost, we should be able to produce good quality products at a competitive price. If the price is high, even if the quality is good, we are not going to purchase that. Third important thing which is required to satisfy the customer is the delivery of the product. That means, if I want a red color shirt of size 42, it should be available. You may say that 42 is not available, 40 is there, 44 is there, or some other things are available, but I want whatsoever I need, it should be available. So, the delivery performance, delivery of the right product at the right time at the right place. So, that is third dimension of customer satisfaction, and we are having, as a customer, we want more features, more aspects. So, then there is another dimension of requirement, that is innovation. My product should have some innovative feature. When we purchase mobile, we ask show me something more which has some more feature, something else also. So, every customer demands some new features, some new aspects of the product or service, and we feel not only satisfied, we feel delighted if we find some feature which we have not even expected. So, that is the kind of requirement are there for the customer satisfaction or delighting the customer. And as a customer, I need all these features, we generally called QCDI, but as a production manager, as a operations manager, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to provide good quality products at a competitive price and deliver to the customer at a place, at a time, of a particular type, as and when customer required, and keep on working continuously to improve in the form of features, in the form of functions, or in some other aspects which are demanded by the customer, or even which are not even customer is not able to even think of, and we are able to provide that. So, that is the kind of challenge which is there for the production and operations management professionals. We can see this aspect with the help of analogy of a tree, of a apple tree. What we expect from a tree? Not just apples, we expect a good quality apples, sweet fruits, and bulk of fruits, plenty of fruits, and third is low hanging fruits. So, sweet fruits are nothing but a quality dimension, bulk of fruit, if there is from the same system we get more quantity, so that will affect the cost per unit. Low hanging fruit means deliverable. So, QCD is the mantra we have to keep in mind whenever whatsoever we are doing as a manager of a production system. So, in this subject, all our tools and techniques, all our concepts are meant towards customer satisfaction, which is nothing but QCD and innovations. So, you will find that whatsoever we are learning in this particular subject, it is meant to improve the quality of the system, quality of the products and services, quality of the processes. It is meant to make the processes more productive, so that less with the utilization of less resources, we are able to provide the products, and then it should be making them available as convenience in a most convenient way to the customer. What are the responsibilities of a operations manager? As I said, design and planning. So, first important responsibility of a operations manager or production manager is designing the system, planning of the system. In that product design, you have to see that whether what should be my product which I am going to take to the market. Product design includes both its shape, form and feature which makes it sell, and also the features of the product which makes it to fulfill the requirements. So, we have to see all aspects of the product design, and even after sales service also, user manual also. So, we have to design that, and then I have to do the capacity planning, how I am going to convert that product into a design into a product by having the appropriate processes, choice of technology and appropriate size of the machines, technology, plant. Then third important thing, once I have decided the design of the product as well as the processes, my next step is to locate the factory at a most suitable place, not only to meet today's requirement, but also for next 20-30 years of requirement. Then I have to decide about the layout and facilities where I am going to locate various departments and machines and equipments. Then I have to work on the job design and work measurement, work organization, and then I have to develop the quality assurance systems also. So, this is one aspect of the activities which operations manager is going to perform. Second set of activities are related to control and operations, that is aggregate production planning, which is a medium range planning thing, and then materials management, inventory control, maintenance of the equipment and processes, scheduling of the personnel, equipment, tools, jobs, etc., and distribution and logistics. Along with this, the control of quality, control of cost and control of other resources are also important as a responsibility for operations manager. So, here you will find that when we are talking about the design in the previous slide, it is more, the decisions are more strategic in nature. The decisions are more strategic in nature, whereas when we are talking about the operations and control, they are more operation decisions, they are more operational decisions. What is the difference between strategic and operational decisions? We can see that strategic decisions are long term decisions, which affects the organization for a very long period. Second, whereas operational decisions are having a short duration impact, like how much material I should purchase as an inventory control manager, that will have an impact of for few days or few weeks only, whereas what product I should design and manufacture, it may have impact for next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So, one is the time horizon, the strategic decision have a long time horizon impact, whereas operational decision have a short impact. Second important parameter is how many departments. So, one is we can say that time horizon, we are talking about the difference between strategic decisions and operational decision. So, first important difference between the two types of decisions is that is time horizon. Strategic decisions are long term, whereas operational decisions are short term. Second important is span of impact. How many departments, how many persons are going to affect because of that particular decision. The strategic decisions affect large number of people, maybe whole of the organization, whereas operational decisions affect a small portion of the department, small portion of the organization. Third important thing is cost of changing the decision, cost of changing the decisions. Suppose I have selected a wrong product and I am finding after some time there is hardly any demand of that particular product, and based on the product design I have purchased the technologies, machine, equipment, set up the factory also, and after that I came to know that oh, my product design decision was wrong. Can I change that? What is the going to the cost of changing that particular decision? It is going to be very high. On the other hand, if it is operational decision related to how much material I should purchase, even if the decision is wrong, it is easy to change the decision. The loss or the cost of changing the decision is very less in case of operational decision. Now, let us look at the production and operations management with the help of a as a system approach, as a input output system approach. So, as we have said, the production system, operation system consists of inputs which is in the form of man, machine, material, money, information, energy and so many other things in the as inputs, depends for different sectors it may vary also. Then there is a transformation process. Transformation can be economic transformation, it can be social transformation, it can be political transformation, or then there is some kind, they are working in a particular environment. This environment can be dynamic, it can be uncertain also. And what is the purpose of this transformation? To create certain output which is required by the consumer, useful products and services. That is the requirement of the, that is the purpose of the transformation process. And then in the process it produces certain undesirable outputs also in the form of effluents, fumes, etc. If we look at the car or transport system, if we look at the transport system, it provides conversion processes, it takes you from one place to another. The conversion is your location, change in the location, and that is a useful service which is provided. But along with that it produces certain effluent, certain gases also which affects the environment. So, and then further beyond if we go that there is a outcome. Ultimate purpose of any system is outcome, and outcome is in the form of customer satisfaction. Customer satisfaction. And customer satisfaction, we said good quality products at a competitive price, deliverable to the customer at a place at a time as per their requirement, and then some kind of innovation in the product. So, that is the broad aspect of the our system approach of production and operations management. So, this so there is some kind of a value addition. Inputs are having a low value, whereas output is having a higher value. So, in a way we can say that our conversion process is nothing but a value addition process. The transformation is to add value to the inputs. So, in that respect we can say that production operations is the process of changing inputs into output and thereby adding value. So, purpose of transformation process is adding value to some entity. Some entity can be material, entity can be human beings, entity can be some other kind of a thing. This constitutes the primary function of virtually every organization. You might have heard value added tax also in the value added tax or in GST era, earlier also value added tax, or it was popularly called VAT. So, whatever value you are adding, tax will be applied on that particular value. So, that is a very important aspect in our taxation system as well as in our operations management system. So, there are several ways in every system there is different type of value addition takes place. It can be done by physical change, just like I said, wood is converted into furniture. So, that is a physical change in the system, or in our manufacturing cars etc., the castings are converted into components, engine parts or some other parts. So, that is some kind of a physical change takes place. Value addition is in form of changing the physical shape. It can be sensual also. Sensual is in the form of changing some kind of a aspect, just like we go to spa or some kind of entertainment, and those kind of things are sensual changes. There is no physical change, but we feel better. Third is the psychological changes through education, through other means, by reading a book, there is some change in the psychological changes take place. So, that reading a book or university is also in a way transformation process, which add value to the student. Student enter into the education system at one level of psychological thinking, and when he leaves he has another level of thinking or knowledge process. Then there is another kind of system, as I said, transport, which add the value by moving the material or person from one place to another. Then there is a storage, that is also a value added system, by which the material which is available at one point of time is made available at some other point in future. Inspection is also a activity, transformation activity, by which we inspect the item and see that segregate bad items from the good item. So, these are all transformation processes. So, kind of transfer in manufacturing, most of the transformations are physical in nature. In transportation, the transformation is in the form of change of location. In retailing, there is some kind of exchange, value addition is by exchange. In warehousing, the storage, by having the storage of goods and making them available as per customer's requirement at a time when customer needs. Hospital, some physiological changes, you enter into hospital with certain physiological parameter in the form of blood pressure, in the form of oxygen level or something, and when you get discharged from the hospital, you are having better parameter, vital parameters. And then in reading, there is some kind of attitudinal change, psychological change is there, and in entertainment there is some kind of a informational change takes place. So, you will find you can list a few more examples from your surrounding and see that what type of change, what type of transformation takes place in that particular aspect. Now, question arises how to measure the performance of a production system. Obviously, the first and foremost comes at efficiency. We should see that my production system is highly efficient. Efficient means it should be able to produce the desired products with minimum of resources, or with the same amount of resources it should produce more output. So, that is called the efficiency, the ability to do something or produce something without wasting material, time or energy. So, that is the aspect of efficiency. Then we need to be effective also. That means we are doing the activities which are desired by the customer, which are needed by the customer. If I produce something, there is a customer who is ready to purchase it. So, that is called the effectiveness. How effective are your actions? The capability of producing a desired result, desired product, desired output. So, this is more related to outcome. Effectiveness is more related to outcome, whereas efficiency is more concerned with consumption of resources. Then obviously quality, we should be able to produce a quality which is meeting the requirements of the customer, fitness for use. Then the lead time, effectiveness is much broader than the quality. Effectiveness includes all dimensions of quality also, cost also, delivery performance also, and some new features also, which is expected by the customer. Then the lead time also for the delivery performance, the time between the initiation and completion of an activity. The moment customer places an order, entered into your showroom or demanded your product online, and in how much time you are able to deliver it. These days you might have hearing in the advertisements 19-minute delivery of your vegetables, fruits, etc. So, that is kind of a lead time. You place the order online and within 20 minutes you are getting the delivery at your doorstep. So, lesser the delivery lead time, better is the performance of a system. Then the flexibility also, ability to meet the changing requirements also. You have placed the order, after some time you want to cancel it, or you want to add something, or you want to, or there is more demand from the product of a product, your system should be able to handle that. So, there are several types of flexibilities are there. At this stage I can only list few, like volume flexibility. You should be able to increase the production rate or decrease the production rate without any additional cost on per unit basis. That means, the per unit cost will remain the same even if you add 5% more production or you reduce 5 to 10% of your production rate, the cost per unit will remain same. Similarly, another is the, we call it mixed flexibility. Suppose you are producing 3 different models, red, blue and green. There may be a change in the demand. You have thought that okay, 50% red, 25% green and 25% blue, but after some time there is a change in the demand pattern. There is only 40% requirement of red color. So, that way you should be able to change the mix also, or in a automobile sector, car manufacturing, there may be change of demand of different types of models which you are producing. So, that flexibility you should have, that is called mixed flexibility, and there are several more dimensions of flexibility are there, we will study later on. Then productivity. Productivity combines efficiency, lead time, flexibility, etc. It is a ratio of output to input. It is a ratio of output to input. How well your systems are to convert the given output, given inputs into output. So, that is the concept of productivity. And another concept is, which is a today's concept, the most desirable concept today is competitiveness. We want to be competitive. Now, you will hardly hear these days that I want to be productive. Everybody wants that you should be competitive. That means, you should be able to produce and sell the products which are demanded by the customer, because of large amount of variety, because the changing requirements of variety of the customers. You should be sync, your manufacturing, your operations, your activity should be in sync with the market. So, that is the kind of competitiveness. I have written few, the productivity was very important in 1960s when there was a producer market. There was less amount of production and more demand was there. So, whatever you were able to produce, there is a customer, and the variety was very limited. So, whole focus was on how to produce more products. So, the focus was on output, how to produce more output with the given resources, so man, machine, materials, etc. So, at that time the focus was on productivity, but later on, as we find, when there is a opening of economy in 1990s, because of globalization, because of more opening of the economy, competition increases, more global organizations came, and then now there is a consumer market. That means there is more of manufacturing and less is the demand, and in that scenario I want to be in sync with the customer. I should produce only that which is required, and that is why from 1989 now the focus has shifted from productivity to competitiveness. But one thing we have to keep in mind, I cannot be competitive unless I am productive. So, I have to produce the products and services with minimum of resources, and once that is done, then I should sync my product and services according to the demand of the customer. So, if I am able to do that together, then only I will be able to survive in the market. So, that is the mantra which we have to keep in mind. Productivity is more inward looking, that is looking at my processes etc., whereas competitiveness is looking at your market outside world. Having said that, let us cover one more aspect here. Like here, this feedback system where we have written, we have not discussed at that place. Now, we can look, feedback is nothing but measuring the efficiency, measuring the effectiveness, measuring the productivity and measuring the competitiveness of the system. So, that is called feedback system, and you might have studied somewhere open loop system and closed loop system. If this feedback is not there, if this link is not there, that means there is input, transformation and output, and there is no feedback to the system back, then it is called open loop system. It is a one directional system, open loop system, whereas in closed loop system the feedback is given to the system so that it can improve, it can change itself so that it produce as per the plan, as per the requirements. So, that is the concept of open loop system and closed loop system. Now, friends, question is, which is more important, efficiency is more important or effectiveness is more important? Most of the students in the class, they say that efficiency is more important. Let us understand, if you are having a low efficiency and low effectiveness, cell A, what will happen? You can survive for some time. Obviously, this organization is not going to survive for a long time, it is going to die because your efficiency is low, you are consuming more resources, your cost of production is high, and secondly the products are not having much demand in the market, and you want to go to this particular cell D, that is thrive, where you want to enhance the product efficiency as well as enhance the effectiveness. Now, the question arises whether I should enhance efficiency first or I should enhance effectiveness first. Friends, if we are increasing the efficiency first, that means moving from this cell to this cell, what are you doing? You are doing the wrong things and that too very fast. So, that is not going to work. If in A, if you are working like A, you may survive for few months or there, here you are not going to survive for few weeks if you are doing wrong thing, that too very fast. So, the route for thriving is passing through C. So, I should first improve my effectiveness, that means I look at the effectiveness to see that the products and service which I am producing, they should be relevant for the market in which I am feeding to. And once I am able to improve my products and services, the effectiveness, then I should work for improving the efficiency or my system, and that is how the organization from a sick organization to a thriving organization is possible. So, first we should improve the effectiveness, and here efficiency generally in present day we are improving with the help of ERP, which stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. There are several softwares available these days. So, we are implementing basically IT solutions, we are implementing in the organization to improve the efficiency, whereas to improve the effectiveness the right term is BPR, business process re-engineering. So, idea is first we should re-engineer the process and then we should look for the automation of the process. First I should re-engineer the process, remove the difficulties in the processes, and then I should go for the automation of the process. If I do the automation process first, then it is a sure recipe for failure or disaster. In 1990s when ERP came, many organizations started implementing ERP without improving their processes, and they were the ERP failure case studies. So, first we have to improve the effectiveness, and then I should go for improving the efficiency of the system. So, as I said, productivity is nothing but output by input. Productivity is nothing but output by input. And let us say for a insurance sector, what is meant by productivity? How many policies are processed per employee hour? So, my input is manpower cost and output is how much policies are processed in a given system. If 3 employees are there and they work for 40 hours every week and they process 600 policies, my labor productivity is 5 policies per hour. And if by some means if this 600 policies are increased to 700 policies, then obviously my productivity will increase, or I am able to achieve the target of 600 policies rather than 3 employees with the help of 2 employees only. That also means I am improving the productivity. So, various tools and techniques which we are going to study under production and operations management, you will find there are policies which will help in reducing the input, there are policies which will help in improving the output. In a way, I can say that productivity can be improved in 4 different ways. Productivity can be improved in 4 different ways. One is increase in output with the same inputs, with the same input. Second is same output, but reduction in inputs. Third way is increasing the output as well as reducing the inputs. And fourth also you will find certain techniques which we are going to study. A substantial increase in output, a substantial increase in output with a small increase in input. So, by adding one machine or some resource, there is a substantial increase in output. So, there are 4 ways of improving the productivity: increasing the output with the same amount of inputs, increasing the output with the less amount of inputs, or increasing the output as well as reducing the inputs, and fourth is a substantial increase in output and with small increase in input. This is generally happen, option 4 generally happen when we balance the resources, or rationalization of resources. We add some resources somewhere which are bottleneck stages, and that helps in substantial increase in output of the system. Then in the previous slide we have seen only one factor as input, that is labor cost, but I can have multi-factor productivity measurement also, where rather than taking only one factor as labor, I can take other components of cost also, like material cost, like overhead cost also I can include in my denominator. So, that is called multi-factor productivity. Like here 400 units are produced at rupees 10 per unit by having a labor cost of 400 rupees, material cost of 1000 and overhead cost of 300. So, in that way the 400 rupees worth of output is produced by consuming 1700 worth of input. That means, my per unit cost is 2 rupees 35 paisa, rupees 2.35 is per unit cost of production. So, that is the called multi-factor productivity. There are alternate names also to this subject. Obviously, this is an offshoot of a very old traditional subject of industrial engineering. This is also called production planning and control. In management schools, it is called operations planning and control, or it is also called operations management. The subject is taught as operations management. You might have heard this word operation several times. Operation this, government of India and other governments also start this operation something. So, what is meant by operation? Operations is nothing but any useful activity, any useful activity, any useful activity. Operations is nothing but any useful activity, and management means designing of that activity, control of that activity, designing or planning of that activity, control of that activity and improving of the activity. So, operations management is designing the operations, designing the useful activity, controlling the useful activity and improving the activity. This is also called design, planning and control of production system. It is also taught as decision science also. Decision science is a very old nomenclature for this particular subject. But obviously, after liberalization and globalization and with the penetration of information technology thing, the complexity and the scope of this subject has increased manifold. And it is also taught to almost all branches of engineering, whether it is a computer science, electronics, electrical, IT, civil engineering, polymer technology, every in certain branches it is elective subject, in certain branches it is a core subject, and it is also taught to BBA, MBA, BCA or MCA. So, it has a application and utility for all several streams. Let us see the historical development of this particular subject. It was in 1776, Adam Smith, father of scientific management, wrote Wealth of Nation. He was working in a factory which is manufacturing pins, nails, and the existing system was each worker was given a roll of wire and he was producing nails independently. All the steps of manufacturing was done independently. This gentleman Adam Smith, father of the scientific management, he divided the work into several stages. One worker is doing the straightening of the wire, another worker is doing the cutting of the wire, third person is doing the making the edge, fourth is making the head, fifth one is doing the polishing and packaging. And to the surprise, the productivity of the organization increased. Earlier there was a production rate of 20 pins, 20 packets of pin per person per day. It increased to 4,800 pins per person per day. So, there is 240 times increase in productivity by changing the process, and this is where that it was said that there are better ways of doing the given activity. Then there is F.W. Taylor. In 1896, he was working in a pig iron steel company, and he worked on how to load the pig iron into rail cars, and he developed the concept of work study, method study there, and scientifically trying to find out a better way of doing the work. And then in 1911, there is a team of husband and wife, Gilbert and his wife, they developed the micro motion study. Micro motion study means when you are doing a very small activity like assembly of a wristwatch, assembly of a mobile, where the span of looking at is very small. So, and the each element may be a few seconds, a fraction of a second also. So, that is called micro motion study. They developed 18 thermalics, and this you will find that thermalic word is written Gilbert in the reverse order. So, develop these 18 thermalics like move the hand, go empty, pick up, search. Even search is also given one of the activity element of the study, and if we can eliminate that search by better location of the objects, it will reduce the time. Then in 1913, Henry Ford, he developed the concept of first moving assembly line. Earlier cars were manufactured, one car is manufactured at one place, another car is manufactured at another place, and it was more manufactured as a project kind of a thing, but he developed a assembly line where car is moving on a conveyor and different workers are adding value to the car, and the present day assembly lines are invented in 1913 by Henry Ford. And then important concept of inventory management, that is the foundation for our today's supply chain management and operations management also. Harris developed the inventory control models and economic order quantity, very important formula he developed, economic order quantity. That means how to reduce the total cost of keeping the material and procuring the material, that is called economic order quantity. In 1917, he developed the concept of economics, and this formula which was developed we will study also in inventory, 2DCO by CI. This has become very popular as a Wilson formula. Wilson was his student of Harris, and he took this formula or the outcome of Harris to the industry, and it became popular as a Wilson's formula of inventory management. Then in 1924, Shaver developed the concept of statistical quality control. The whole of the control charts which we are using in our industry today, they are developed in 1924 by Shaver. Many more aspects of statistics. Then very important intervention took place in 1927 to 33. They are called Mao's experiment or also called Hawthorne experiments. So, there was a scientist Mao who was working on illumination in a factory. Up to this point we were considering when this Taylor and other persons give their theories, they said that method means only how you are doing the work. And this is first experiment, Hawthorne experiment, where they said that it is not only the body or the method which is important, the emotions or psychological aspects, behavioral aspects of the worker is also important. So, that is called Mayo experiment. In this experiment, in a given workplace, they increase the illumination of that workplace, and they found that as the illumination increases, the productivity increases. But after some time they start reducing the illumination, and to their surprise the productivity further increases. The productivity further increases. Even if they start reducing the illumination, the productivity further increases. They were not able to understand this aspect with the help of method study and other principles. They found that there is something beyond that, and they found that worker came to know that somebody is observing, and that is why it becomes more like a motivation or a threat for him to work more hard. So, that is the kind of concept which came, and from this whole of our today's behavioral science, human resource development and such kind of subject psychology, child psychology, human psychology, industrial psychology, all these subjects are offshoot of this particular experiment that is called Hawthorne experiment. For the first time we came to understand that there is something beyond the limbs also which affects the productivity of a system. Then in 1933 the methods work study was developed by Vance, and where we said that there is a scientific way, there are 8-step approach to develop a method of a given work, which is the best method rather than optimal method, that is the best method. And then in 1940s during the Second World War, the conceptual foundations for value engineering, systems analysis, operation research etc. emerged. Let us see the historical development post 1950s with the Japan at the center of these developments. We all know that nuclear bomb were bombarded on Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the Second World War, and Japan was totally ruined. And after immediately World War, Japan wanted to build up its economy again. So, what they did? They concentrated on achieving competitiveness through those activities which are having low labor cost, because at that time they were only resource which they are having is the labor, cheap labor. So, they develop the industries which require high amount of labor because they are having that. So, they develop steel industry, they develop the steel industry, textile industry, shipbuilding industry. They targeted on these industries, and because of their low cost of labor, they were able to produce these products at a very low cost and increase the market share. Then came the 1960s. Because of increase in productivity and sharing the gains of the productivity, there is a rise in wages. The same phenomena we can see in Indian context also. In 1990s, IT sector came to India because of the cheap IT professionals available here. But after a decade or 1.5 decade, we are finding that the salaries of IT professionals increased, and again IT industry started moving out from India to some other countries where the labor is still cheap or IT professionals are still cheap. So, what happens with increase in market share productivity, there is a rise in wages and there is a increase in inflation, and advantages of cheap labor is eroded. Now, Japanese manufacturing labor cost advantage is no more there. So, there is a very less increase in productivity to offset increase in labor cost. The result was loss of competitive edge, decrease in market share and loss in volume, profit, position and prestige. Japanese context, prestige is very, very important, and they start introspecting what to do, how to remain competitive in the given situation. Then they shift the focus strategy. What you will do if you find that your competitiveness is getting eroded? Now they are having the capital, along with the labor they are having the capital. They started into automation, they started investing into the technology, and with the help of that they were able to boost the productivity of their system. So now they are talking about scale based strategies. Scale based strategy means produce in large numbers, large quantities, have the machine and equipment which can produce large volumes, because as the scales increases, the cost per unit decreases, which is called economy of scales, which is called economy of scales. As the size of production increases, the cost decreases. There is a thumb rule, there is 20% reduction in per unit cost if the volumes are doubled. If you are manufacturing 1 lakh units per year and you start producing 2 lakh units per year, the cost per unit will be reduced by 20% because of the reduction in various overhead costs. So, they achieve the high productivity, low cost by building the largest and most capital intensive automated plants, automated facilities. Then came the phase 3. Now, because of increase in the wages, salaries of the person, there is money in the pocket, they started demanding variety. As we are having money in our pocket, we ask for more variety, more features, more functions. So, customers started demanding variety, but their factories were such which can produce, mass produce the same common products, standard products in large quantities at a lower cost. So, again they have to shift the strategy. So, they change their factory so that they can existing factory was with low variety and high productivity. So, they have to shift, it was inflexible. So, they have to shift it, they have to divide the factories into small cells, cellular manufacturing systems, and by doing that they were able to produce the variety. As I said, if you double the volumes, the cost per unit is reduced. If you increase the variety, the cost per unit is increased, but Japan want to produce large variety without increasing the cost per unit. So, then came the phase 4, that is 1970s onward, where the Toyota production system came into picture, JIT production system, which is also called lean manufacturing. Toyota production system, this is also called lean manufacturing. So, now there is a variety war between various automobile players. They want to produce more variety to attract the customer. So, this is where you can find that there is a change from seller driven market to buyer market, from seller market to buyer's market. So, there is an example, very good example of the performance of the Japanese. Both the rules which I have said earlier were broken by Japanese. We said if you double the volumes, the cost will reduce, and if you double the variety, the cost will increase. But Japanese worked with this. US plant was producing 10 million suspensions of 11 types only, whereas Japanese were producing 3.5 million, almost one third, and 38 types, almost 3 times, but the unit cost of Japanese production is half of the US cost. What is the reason? How they were able to achieve that? There are two things which are important here to be noticed. One is direct workers and indirect workers. Japanese plant use indirect workers only 1 as compared to 18 indirect workers used by the US plants. Indirect workers are those who are not directly involved in the production, they are not directly adding value to the production. Indirect workers are in the form of quality control persons, maintenance persons, housekeeping person, then material movement person, and like that. So, these are the indirect workers who are not adding value. And how Japanese are able to cope up? They give the ownership of the machine to the worker. That means a person, direct worker who is producing, he will be responsible for quality, he will be responsible for the regular upkeep of the machine. He will then they work on JIT, by which they were directly material is coming to the line, not going to the warehouses, and all such internal movement is reduced. Second important thing which they did is, that is with respect to materials, zero inventory. Zero inventory. When I say zero inventory, means tending towards zero inventory. Even today it is not possible to work with zero inventory, and that give birth to the concept of JIT, that is just in time. That is just in time, or lean manufacturing, or like that. That means you purchase the material only when it is required, and you convert into components and parts only when it is required for assembly, and you do the assembly when only it is required by the consumer. So, that is the concept of this. So, that is why they are able to produce the components and parts at 1/2 of the cost of Japanese their counterparts in US. Then there is a variety war of Honda and Yamaha in 1980s. Honda targeted 60 models in next 18 months, and they introduced 113, whereas Yamaha targeted 16 and they were able to introduce only 13. That is why you will find today Honda is a market leader in automobile, especially in two-wheelers. Variety lead to fashion, technology upgradation, composites, direct drive, 4-stroke engine, etc., etc. So, that is the kind of you will find the how this subject has grown in the last century or so. So, friends, we have seen that the subject has grown from a very modest beginning of 1776 by Smith working in a pin manufacturing company, to a present day systems which are manufacturing large number of products and services with the help of IT, complexity, global operations, etc., etc. So, that is the very important phase for our this particular subject of operations and production management, highly vibrating subject which can be useful at in further enhancing the competitiveness of the organization. So, in that context, if you see that the subject is going to be very interesting, and you will learn several tools and techniques in this, several conceptual foundations on which, by with the help of that, you are able to satisfy the customer, you are able to meet the expectations of the customer and delight the customer, and in that you are also helping the growth of the organization, increasing its market share and increasing its profitability. With this, we come to the end of this our lecture number 1. Thank you very much to all the listeners. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I am not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I am also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories. Now, does that diminish the stature of Shakespeare as a dramatist? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. See you in the next episode of Literary Snippets.